a lot of the things that you're talking about in understanding root cause do stem to toxicity in the environment, right? So can you go into that a little bit? Because a lot of people don't connect the two at all. And this is a big one, like toxicity can cause inflammation, let's say. We understand that certain toxins can impact neurological function, but we usually don't connect things like molds with actual mental health. And I feel like that gap is also a huge one that keeps people very frustrated as to, why am I depressed? Why am I feeling these ways? When in truth, it could be the environment you're in, the toxicity that's actually inside of you. So can you speak on that and how toxicity and mental health are really, really closely related?
Yeah, absolutely. What I like to explain to people with mental illness is not what we've been told it is. And there's so much stigma and taboo, and people get really ferocious, especially around subjects like autism, right? You'll get the people that project their arrogance out of an egocentric reaction because they feel threatened by something they don't understand. And no, like there is no cure for autism. The whole like diagnostic criteria cure ideology, it's excessively simplistic. That's not like, the body doesn't care what label you want to put on it. And it doesn't, like, cure is such an ambiguous word in general, right? This is why the idea of function or dysfunction, right? Like if you put the wrong type of fuel in your car, you're not changing the oil. Do you think your car is going to function as well as it would if you took better care of it? How is it any different than your body, whether you're a normal person with anxiety or depression, or the genotype that is susceptible to what we call autistic behavior, right? So what I like to say is mental illness, it's an epigenetic phenomenon that's driven by oxidative stress and inflammation. We all have our unique genotype, but then the environment, the lifestyle, the input signals that the genes receive change the epigenetic expression of all these genes, all of these proteins, all of these enzymes that create a different neurochemical, biochemical phenotype that then we call something like, oh, that person is just really obsessive, or that person is, a little eccentric or whatever. But as the dysfunction, the oxidative stress, the inflammation brews, it's like being obsessive compulsive becomes manic, or being a little stoic becomes depressive, or whatever. We slide what was our archetype and our natural aura and state of being is now becoming a more dysfunctional, more volatile, energetic state because of excess toxicity and oxidative stress. So it amazes me, and this is why I'm more outspoken than I used to be, is there is such a wealth of scientific literature that validates all of this. There's research that shows environmental, just air pollution drives schizophrenia and neurodegeneration and all of these things. But it is that simple. Well, I mean, simple conceptually in regards to, the glyphosate, the carbon emission, the BPA and the endocrine disrupting chemicals, or something that's more naturally occurring like mold, right? Mold is a huge subject that has been directly linked to, like, literally the literature, the scientific peer-reviewed literature says it drives autism, it drives neurodegeneration, it kills neurons and brain cells. It's highly toxic, oxidative, inflammatory, immunosuppressive. So it's like, we have the literature. It's just, you have to go dig for it. And unless that's what you do for a living, it's impractical for people to really dig into that. But it opens up the conversation of, train theory, germ theory, right? Of like, we're throwing all these medications at it while we continue to make the environment more toxic and worse. Like Russia and Mexico are like way ahead in phasing out glyphosate, but then we're just going to swap it for glufosinate, which is probably just as bad, or like, oh, it's BPA free, but it's now BPS that's just as bad.
Yeah.
We're not doing anything to improve the environment, even though Amazon and all these big companies are pledging, right? But it's just to appease people, really. But the environmental toxicity and then the self-destructive lifestyle of processed food, no nutrients, there's the environment and lifestyle. Those are the primary driving forces. And you can always create new fancy drugs. I think the drugs are cool. Like, I know a lot about the drugs. I think they're really cool. I think I could have been a really good pharmaceutical scientist, but we don't need more drugs. We need to clean up the environment, and we need to get our shit together with our lifestyle.
Yeah. And it is like this revolving vicious disease cycle, right? We get more toxicity. We try and change that. We try and, put more drugs in us, higher toxicity, then give more drugs for those. And it's like, you just end up going in a downward spiral really into chronic disease, and how that manifests is really, like you said, epigenetics and a personalized kind of thing in your where you actually express that